Hey guys, good Thursday morning, and thanks for checking out your latest long-range agricultural forecast update. Michael Clark here with BAM Weather and the Weather Portal. Hope this finds everybody well here this morning. We've got a lot to discuss, including just kind of the continued delays in planting, the unfavorable weather conditions that really look to have a hold here for the next couple of weeks, not only in the U.S., but the growing conditions for the safrinha corn crop, the second corn crop down in South America, and we're going to talk about just how it's not looking that great for those folks down there, and when we think we might be able to start seeing a lot more action going here for planting. Listen, I think it's going to be just fine. I think it's just a couple of weeks late, and if anything, statistics reports show us that we can plant crop really, really quick here in the U.S., and I think at the end of the day, yeah, it may be a couple weeks late, but I just don't see huge alarms, right now, unless you're trying to force it in, and now you're dealing with rain and frost and freeze threats coming. So let's talk about this. We put this out to our customers back on the 11th of April, talking about where planting delays are going to be likely, and this is going to continue not only for rainfall and snow and cold. The same thing's going to go here for wet conditions and for cold conditions, because even if you've been had seed, had stuff in the ground here since last week, what's going to happen is we've got frost and freeze risks working their way into the picture, and so any emergence there could really be at risk here, unfortunately. So we're urging folks to pay close attention to the weather forecast and things going forward to find out when the perfect time to get in is. We've been talking about that here internally for a couple of weeks. All right, so let's talk about what we're seeing here going forward. Kind of an overview. We look here at our storm fronts, our dates to expect bigger storm systems. We work hard on these. These do a very good job at pinpointing when we're going to have big systems work through. Okay, cold front and storm system here around the 21st, around the 24th, again around the 30th, and around May 5th through 7th. This could be a rather significant possible outbreak of severe weather once again across portions of the central United States. So here's what we're looking at here week one. Obviously very mild with the exception of the northern plains. Wet. Still very wet with snow too in the northern plains. Western portions of South Dakota, most of North Dakota, the southeastern portions of the Canadian prairies, very wet here week one. And then this storm system here is going to get started here within the next 36 hours. It's already been raining here here in the eastern Corn Belt, Indianapolis area here. We've had some rain. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but more rain anticipated here as we get late into the weekend as a big, strong cold front comes through. Behind all of this rain is where the cold is going to come. Here's the week 2 forecast. Cold spills in. Some of the coldest air are going to be centered here in these two locations, mainly for snow and then just for the core of the cold. The week 2 forecast, though, still active in here and still active up in here. This takes us out through May 4th. Okay, we go through May 4th in those dates. But here's a look at, with that in mind, let's look at kind of what we've seen and then going forward. Here's the last 72 hours. This is kind of the major production areas where most of the corn and soybean crop is at or planted. And you can see the 72-hour rainfall. Again, it's spring. It's April. It rains in April. It's not that big of a deal. It happens. But it is delaying folks. It's causing folks to not be able to get out and get into the fields and work as they would wish, want to do, of course. But regardless, we've had some decent rain in the last 72 hours, moved through the area, and that is putting a damper on some things. Now we look at the 30-day departures for rain and for temperatures, and it's a clear, obvious issue here. It's been very wet the last 30 days, all right, and it's also in that same area. It has been very cool. Temperatures have ran well below normal. We've kept working in snow and cold and frost and freeze, and then you couple it with just the ground being wet. It just hasn't been very friendly. A lot of places here running above normal the last 30 days for rainfall, with the exception of the Dakotas, Iowa, out through Kansas, the panhandles of Oklahoma, Texas here, the central plains where it has been unbelievably windy as well. We've had incredible wind events here over the last couple of weeks, as I'm sure you all are well aware of. Here's a closer look at that precipitation percent of normal for the last 30 days. Again, A lot of Illinois, Missouri, the boot heel down through western Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana up through Michigan. There's a lot of crop in here, a lot of ground to work, a lot of it running wetter than average for sure, especially central Illinois, Missouri. And then, of course, North Dakota, portions of northern South Dakota and Minnesota here, very, very wet as well the last 30 days. But you can see where it's definitely been much drier in the Central Plains. We've had people reaching out in Nebraska, Kansas, the panhandles of Oklahoma, Texas, asking about rain. And the pattern, unfortunately, is just not looking good for any relief for those folks anytime soon. If you're out in those areas, I would anticipate the forecast models to trend a little bit warmer and a little bit drier here, especially as we get into May. Okay, this is a look at rainfall the next 48 hours from our high-resolution ensemble forecasts. Our HREF computer model data brings a warm front north. It's going to bring heavy rain across central southern Iowa and north central Illinois. Rain, scattered storms, thunder, lightning, maybe some small hail, some gusty winds. Nothing severe to that matter, but locally heavy rain certainly very possible there right across south central Iowa and north central Illinois the next 48 hours. Again, as this big front moves through, and it's going to bring the threat here for frost and freeze coming into next week. We've got a battle of the weather models. We've got the Euro week 1, the GFS week 1, and everybody's always asking which model does the best, which one should we trust, and it varies case by case. It's different with each event and each system. When we look at the setup and we look at the dynamics of everything, in this particular instance, we favor the European model. We think the GFS is missing the buck in Iowa. And the reason for that is strong forcing, isotropic lift, a warm front lifting north. We've got a wide open flow to the Gulf of Mexico, and we're going to bring rain into the area, we believe. And so the European is favored for the week 1 7-day precip forecast, albeit it did back off a bit. You can see the change here. It backed off on how heavy the rain event is going to be here late weekend. Regardless, still has a decent amount of it here in the forecast for week 1. So the favored precipitation forecast right now, European model, very wet northern plains, wet across the Midwest down through Texas and up through the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes regions. 1 to 2 inches of rain here with this front as it sweeps through the area. As that front sweeps through, the cold starts to filter in. This is next Monday morning, okay? So here's Monday. You can see the cold filtering down 20s and teens and upper 30s here. And then as we get into Tuesday, you watch the cold continue to filter down in. Now that freezing line is located roughly here, and there's frost just south of it here next Tuesday morning. Next Wednesday morning, bottom left map, okay, that freezing line now is roughly about right here across the area. So you're below 32 here, and you're frosty near that line. And then next Thursday morning, possibly judging by the European computer model, in this area, and even some ensemble agreement of a hard freeze. Temperatures in the upper 20s, and that's the morning of the 28th of April with this round of cold coming through via the latest European computer model data. Now, what does the long-range data say? Are we going to continue to deal with this? When's this pattern going to break? So on and so forth. Well, this is the European, American ensemble, and the American, just the GFS model, broken out here the next 15 days in 5-day chunks. We have the 1 to 5 here from the EPS, okay, which again, we believe is seeing the Iowa rains much better than that of the American suit. Okay, so we can kind of scratch out these two. We like this one better. In the 6 to 10, it is a drier period for sure, we think, but it's a cold period. And then in the 11 to 15, look at the differences between the GFS and the European for precipitation. And that's where in our week 2 outlook, we've kind of gone in between the two, but we're still keeping it active in here, and we're also still keeping it very active up in here. You get out of the 11 to 15, you have these differences, but a blend between the two is probably good. And the pattern's probably still active because the end of week 2 is still May 4th, and we've got a big storm coming through possibly around the 5th, 6th, and 7th of May. That could bring severe weather. The temperatures, it's all systems a go for cold. Okay, where the models are trending warmer, where there's a warmer risk is where it's drier. And that's out here, we talked about this, out into the Central Plains. However, some of this cold could eventually spill its way into the central and southern plains, especially into the 6 to 10 and the 11 to 15 day. If you ask the European model and the GFS operational, even the 11 to 15, deep cold working in, some of those frost risks could get down into the wheat regions down there to central plains. That could be of concern. Regardless, it's all systems go that week 2 is cold, and the 6 to 10 and the 11 to 15, we really don't have any reason to disagree with that at this point in time, as a strong cold front's going to move through and bring persistent, really, frost and freeze risks. And this is the thing I want to mention. I do believe that what we're looking at here into the 5th, 6th, and 7th of May, behind that front, behind that big storm, there could still be a significant cold risk. So we're advising our customers right now, try to hold off until, post May 10th, at the second week of May, the end of the second week there. Try to hold off because the stronger cold fronts may subside, the pattern may relax, and we may be looking at warmer and at possibly drier conditions here as we work into that time frame. So just something to keep in mind, because this storm system here, this storm system that we see in the North Pacific, is going to correlate to a pretty big storm, a pretty active storm, or pattern, if you will, between that May 5th and 10th time frame. Okay. Now, going forward here, this is a look at I had a map I wanted to show you guys. Where'd it go? Let me pull that up here real quick, because I want to show you. We're going to get to South America in just a second, but this is a look at the latest CFS weekly forecast. Okay, and what this is just week 3 and week 4 temperature and precip. Notice week 3. Okay, notice how it's still really wet and cold, the 5th through the 11th of May. Okay, but notice how the 12th through the 18th we see warmer departures work in and drier ones too. I think from that week 3 to 4 transition, that's making sense. I like that. I like what it's doing. I think mid to late May, warmer and drier can work in pretty quickly. Okay, so let's talk about South America real quick. This is just a map here. This is the USDA's production by municipality, or the total corn production down here in South America. We can see obviously the heart of this, Mato Grosso do Sol, Goiás. That's where the heart of this, especially this safrinha corn crop, the second safrinha corn crop down here in South America, is produced. Look at the data. I've plotted Mato Grosso. What I have here is I have daily Euro, the high res and the GFS high res, with no rain essentially. Okay, now, the Euro is a little bit more aggressive down here, but even at that, the primary production areas over the next 10 days, not much in the way of rainfall at all. In fact, it's bleak. It's at best maybe a small rain chance here, but the pattern, the strong La Nina taking hold across South America, tells us we're not really forecasting much rain, and a lot of the rain that shows up on the models may be phantom or ghost rain at that. In the 5 to 10 day period, you see here across the top, I have European and GFS 5 to 10. Okay, in the 10 to 15, the warmth continues to expand a little bit in the primary growing regions where it's already dry and where it's not raining. So for this safrinha corn crop, it really is worst case scenario. I see a lot of people on Twitter making cracks about it. Oh, it's the worst ever, record this, record. It really actually is a really bad situation down there. It's not looking good for that corn crop at all when you look at the actual setup. So that's the latest here from BAM Weather. If you have any questions, want more information, feel free to get in touch with us. You can always shoot us an email, info@bamwx.com, or you can visit bamwx.com. Have a great week.